morning. It's Monday, July 22nd, National Hammock Day. And that's all well and good. But yesterday was National Ice Cream Day. And honestly, for the first time in history, that's relevant to the news. It being National Ice Cream Day is relevant to the news. So let's talk about it. And now, the news. Let's start with traffic and weather. No, I'm just kidding. What if I imagined if I was like, say, in weather? No, there is one story and one story only today. After 3 weeks of party infighting following a truly disastrous debate that opened up conversation about President Biden's ability to beat Trump in November and serve another 4 years as president, President Joe Biden made history on Sunday and announced that he will finish his term but drop his re-election bid. He announced it in a letter, part of which said, quote, "It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term." In a follow-up post, he announced that he was fully endorsing Vice President Harris for the presidency of the United States, an endorsement that was followed by many others. And I do want to just note really quickly, so I'm recording this on Sunday, 5:30 Pacific time. As of right now, some endorsements are coming in. Some notes of support for Biden are coming in that do not include an endorsement. Notably, that includes from President Obama. It is unclear if what he is doing is just giving President Biden a moment to appreciate this great sacrifice that he has made, and then that endorsement will follow, or if he has another idea of what should happen in the coming weeks. But I just wanted to note that there are a lot of endorsements and there are a lot of letters of support. Those two things are not always the same. So as things stand right now, as I record this, Vice President Kamala Harris is our presidential nominee. She is, as of right now, the only serious contender. And there is so much going on. I tried to write this news episode so many times today, and just every time I thought I had a script, more news about this broke. So let's go piece by piece where things are right now. How did we get here? It started with the debate, but as I've said for the last 2 weeks, the debate, that's in the rear view mirror. That was almost a month ago. For the last 2 weeks, this conversation has been more about the fact that he has not been out on the campaign trail as much as we would hope, and that he has not been able to bring the party together. Those two things made for a serious hill to climb and a serious question to be asked about whether or not he would be able to beat Trump. Polling suggested that he wasn't. But it truly was a last-minute decision. I mentioned this in Friday's episode. I said, hot goss, maybe this weekend. But it sounds like the reporting that we're getting is that he didn't make this decision until like 10 minutes before he announced it. So this really was a difficult decision for him. So let's talk about what happens next. That is such a great question. And do me a favor, when you find out, just let me know. This has never happened ever in history at this point in the race. In theory, the closest parables would be LBJ dropping out, but that was in March. They had only had one state primary before he made his decision. And then President Truman dropped out, but again, after one primary. So dropping a re-election bid in general is rare, but dropping it at this point in the race has never happened before. So now there's the question of delegates. And let me be totally honest and tell you that I don't exactly know what happens next. But let me also be honest and tell you that anyone who says that they know exactly what happens next is lying to you. Or a writer for The Simpsons, because The Simpsons predicted basically exactly this. This is not a joke. This is a real episode of The Simpsons. In an episode of The Simpsons, Lisa Simpson, in a purple suit and pearls matching exactly what Kamala Harris wore as she was sworn in for VP, in this episode, she becomes the first female president. The president before her? Trump. Not kidding. Anyway, so we don't know exactly how this will work, but here are some broad strokes that we can kind of start to see a roadmap. When you vote for president, you vote for delegates. On your behalf, those delegates cast a vote for the candidate. The party dictates how many delegates each state gets and the math on which percentage of delegates that each candidate gets based on how much of the state that they won. Those delegates are promised to candidates. Additionally, There are unpledged or superdelegates, which are two words for the same thing. Republicans say unpledged, Democrats say superdelegates. Those delegates are people close to party leaders. They are promised to no one. They vote for whomever they'd like. That's why I've never been able to be a delegate, because I would vote for Rebecca Welton and people would be like, she's not a real person. And I'd be like, debatable. And they'd be like, she's British. And I'd be like, okay, but she's a chameleon. And I believe her. And she told me she was eligible for the presidency. And they'd be like, please leave. You weren't even invited. How did you get here? I recognize that bit went on too long. I apologize. Right now we have an open convention. Each delegate is up for grabs, pledged and super. Now, if you don't know a lot about Kamala Harris right now, don't worry, you will, because she is going to be out there. She is going to have to make a case for those super delegates as well as the pledged delegates, because they don't have somebody to be pledged to right now. In the convention, as the rules always are, the first group to vote will be those 4,000 pledged delegates. Now, I'm going to continue to refer to them as pledged delegates, even though they are not pledged to anyone at this point, but they are a different group of delegates, and just to keep it all straight in my head, I'm going to continue to refer to them that way. So they're pledged, but they're going to be able to vote however they're going to vote because of the fact that Joe Biden is no longer in the running. Though I expect, based on the support that Harris already got on Sunday, that she will take the W in the first round. If not, the next round of voting will be those pledged delegates plus the 700 super delegates. Those are the ones that can vote for anyone. So that'll happen. Ideally, we just have the one round of voting and that'll be it. A contested convention would be if multiple people have enough heat behind them and enough delegates voting for them that we have to do multiple rounds of voting. That is a type of chaos that would be devastating in general, anytime, but particularly right now, given how the last few weeks have been post the debate, having a contested convention right now would be devastating, frankly. But I don't see that coming. Don't worry about that. I don't see that coming. We'll worry about that if we need to, but I doubt we will. At the end of this convention, we are going to have a presidential nominee. I personally think it'll be Harris, and the real question is, who will be her VP? No one has called me yet. I know that you're all thinking, I bet it's Kim. No one's called me yet, and I am from California, so that doesn't really help the campaign, but we'll see. Could be me, could be Josh Shapiro. It could be either of us, really. Do you hear this little joy in my voice? How fun and happy I am right now? The rarity of joy that I have here? It's because this changes everything. And I firmly believe that if we could just act like adults and stand behind Harris, what happened on Sunday changed everything. This is winnable. In fact, just in the first 5 hours of her campaign, Act Blue, a Democratic funding group, has already seen $27.5 million in donations come in. And by the way, by the time you hear this, that is going to be incredibly outdated. You're gonna hear 27.5 and be like, that's adorable. It's gonna be more. Money will come in. And if we're looking for consequences for actions, first of all, Donald Trump donated $5,000 to Harris's California AG campaign in 2011 and another $1,000 in 2013. So there's that. He donated to her campaign. The Trump campaign planned an entire campaign. Their entire world was built against running against Biden. Those ding-dongs had no backup plan. Their own thing was, he's old and hard to understand, and because Trump's 78 and dude can't even hold a sentence with two hands. He is a criminal. He is a felon who has been found liable of sexual assault. Kamala Harris is a young, accomplished attorney who has spent the last 2 years since the fall of Roe talking about why reproductive rights matter. Ever since the Supreme Court allowed Roe to fall, every single time, without exception, that abortion has been on the ballot, voters have voted to protect that right. And while Trump's pick for VP is on mic saying, quote, I certainly would like abortion to be illegal nationally, Harris, like Biden, has been clear about wanting to secure abortion rights. Trump, you doofus, to quote the woman that's going to absolutely stomp you in November, quote, you exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you. Now, as far as whether or not Harris will see anyone stepping up against her, so far, no one has launched a challenge. Now, for reasons that are truly unknowable, a couple weeks ago, Marianne Williamson launched her third bid for president in this one race, not third bid overall. She's run and lost before, but I'm saying in this race, she has now launched 3 bids for president. I don't know why, but that's not serious. It's serious to her, but it's not serious to anybody else. As a personal gift to me, Joe Manchin, aka Joey Manchy, did announce that he is thinking about running as a Democrat, which if you were like, isn't he not a Democrat? You would be correct. He is not a Democrat. He kind of never has been, but he already said that he was an independent because nobody wanted to sit with him at lunch, which also explains why he's not running for re-election in the Senate. This dude can't win his own state, but suddenly thinks he can be president? I mean, come on. I hope he doesn't, because this is a serious time for serious people. But should he decide to roll his ironed jeans up, park that houseboat, and run for president, please know this. It will be my life's mission to bully him out of it. And I know this episode is going long, but I do also want to talk about President Biden. In this moment, we may want to have conversations about why President Biden took so long to drop out of the race. And we may want to have conversations about the infighting that we saw amongst Democrats. But that's neither here nor there. President Joe Biden did something exceptional on Sunday. The best we can ever hope to do with our lives is try and leave everything just like a little bit better than how we found it. He ran in 2020 because he wanted to do just that. In the middle of grief, on top of a lifetime of grief, President Biden did something amazing and truly saved democracy from a second Trump term. Months later, we saw the truth of Donald Trump, a small, terrible person who unleashed an insurrection that saw, for the first time ever, a Confederate flag run through our nation's capital. That's who Trump is. Someone who is running to take away your rights to bodily autonomy, to choice, to democracy. The president believed that he could win again, and it was hard to talk him out of it because he saw what a threat that Trump poses, and he believed that he was the only one that could beat him. The president has been of service to this country since 1972, and on Sunday, July 21st, 2024, he secured his legacy as someone who put his own desires aside for the greater good. The letter that he sent was an act of service that I don't believe many others would have been able to do. It is on all of us now, who believe in a democracy that should work for everyone and possibilities for this country that we have yet to attain, to do every single thing we can to make sure that Donald Trump never, ever wins another election. Kamala Harris has my full support, and absent anything related to We Are Voters, because that is still nonpartisan, I will do everything in my power to get her elected. Because we deserve a democracy. We've got 4 months. Let's go get it done. And that's it. That's the news. I'm proud of President Joe Biden, who loves ice cream almost as much as anything else. Loving ice cream is like 90% of his personality. So much so that he chose to make this truly historic announcement on National Ice Cream Day. And because you also know when to choose your moment, I'm proud of you.